What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. I am your gracious host, Megan. If this is your first time joining me on today, here at AstroQ, we use celestial bodies to help us gain a better understanding of our favorite celebrity world events, and most importantly, our damn selves, really. So, thumbs up the video, subscribe to become a part of the family, because you know you want to. So, without further ado, today I am going to be doing a celebrity synastry reading, this time on none other than Quavo and Christopher Maurice Brown. So, unless you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, these two have had a very much long-standing feud since like 2014, 15, somewhere around in that area. Chris Brown used to date Karrueche. Okay, follow me here. He terrorized that girl. She leaves him. After she leaves him, she goes on to date Quavo from the Migos. This clearly upset Chris Brown. Okay, maybe they had some type of rapport prior to. But if you were around and on social media during this era, this was like Chris Brown's terrorist era, like where he made it very much known in public that he was not going to leave Karrueche alone, even despite the fact that they were no longer together. He would pop up on her in random places, really just harassing the girl. I think that's what we call harassment. But we're going to continue to act like the only person that he harmed was Rihanna. But whatever. Okay? So after they break up, she's trying to get away from him. She ends up dating Quavo. And that really just ignited this little tension that they got going between the two. So you fast forward to more recently, Chris Brown actually puts out a diss tape or a diss record, this song on Quavo. Not gonna lie, he did his big one. He definitely had a lot of witty little moments, witty liners in there. Pretty much was clowning him, calling him to the carpet, the whole nine, right? Quavo releases a diss track, and based on what I'm seeing, just popular consensus, it was whack, it was a flop. And the reality is most people like Chris Brown anyway, so anytime we boil things down to beef and rap beef and whatever, especially now that we're in the era of Pluto and Aquarius, the fanfare of it all, stan culture of it all, people are going to go with who they like the most, okay? But that's a different video for a different day. Point is, I thought it would be fitting to conduct a synastry reading on these two gentlemen, just to put their feud and this tension that exists between them into more of an astrological context, okay? Synastry charts depict the way that our planetary placements interact with those around us, right? And obviously, these said interactions, these aspects in synastry play a very pivotal role in the way that these relationships end up playing out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. In one corner, we have Chris Brown, who was born on May 5th, 1989 at 12:30 p.m. in Tappahannock, Virginia. And then in the other corner, we have Quavo, born on April 2nd, 1991 in Athens, Georgia. Okay? So a couple of things that are really important to understand before we even get into actual synastry aspects. Number one, based on Christopher's time of birth, which is available. I haven't seen the time of birth available for Quavo. Let me know if y'all come across it in the comment section. But this would actually put Quavo's sun in Chris's, technically his 9th house. However, Christopher has Aries occupying the 8th house as well. And so in this instance, technically they don't have 8th house synastry, but I still would kind of count this as being very reminiscent, the energy being very reminiscent of an 8th house kind of connection. And if you are new here, I always talk about 8th house synastry being such a wild card, okay? Personally, I wouldn't advise anyone to seek out 8th house connections. If you do, you do so at your own discretion, and this be romantically. But even from a platonic standpoint, the 8th house deals with extremes. So on one hand, you can have very strong, binding relationships with people. However, those relationships can either take a turn for like really, really good or really, really bad. When you think of the 8th house, which is naturally ruled by Scorpio, think of all or nothing. Think of, one extreme or the other. So, these are bonds that can be extremely close, but also relationships with people where, especially if they are somewhat triggering, sharp left turn straight into like hatred territory. Okay. You could absolutely come across a person who either you hate their guts or they hate your guts if their sun falls in your 8th house. Typically, the house person is more affected in this type of hookup, but I've seen that energetic door swing both ways, to be fair. So this could reflect Chris's feelings towards Quavo, but also Quavo's feelings towards Chris. It's also worth mentioning that when we talk about Aries and its presence in the 8th house, this can manifest in sort of like a unaddressed bone to pick, or like it could manifest in like the sun person being a thorn in the house person's side. So in this case, you could look at this as like maybe Quavo being someone who kind of bothers Chris, or his presence, or, something about him really bothers him, but things kind of simmer. Tensions kind of simmer and simmer and simmer, and then fester and fester until eventually it bubbles up and it boils over, and now you have this really big explosion. And with Aries in the 8th house, this explosion could manifest in physical altercations, right? A violent outburst. You just decided, fuck it, I want to get up and square up with this person, So, which is, so far checks out, right? Chris has made it known multiple times that he wants to fight Quavo. And with Quavo being an Aries, archetypically speaking, he does, from what I've seen of him, he fits that like stereotype of the person of the Aries that is not going to run from a fight, which I thought was really interesting, because I think Chris has like alluded to the fact that, Quavo is ducking a fade and whatever the case may be. And also to be fair, the 8th house can even deal with avoidance as well. So another way to even look at this would be like maybe there being tension between the two, and either instead of addressing it up front right away, one party or the other may seek to avoid things until, tensions come to a head and it can't be avoided any longer, usually resulting in like an explosive consequence or an explosive reaction, if we're talking about Aries in the 8th house. Now, once again, let me reiterate, technically Quavo's sun is in Chris's 9th house. Technically. And even when you look at it from that scope, if Quavo's sun is in Chris's 9th house, but Chris still has Aries in the 8th house, these tension, the background tension between the two could still very much be a present factor. But, when somebody's sun is in your 9th house, sometimes it can be hard to reach them. It can be hard to pin them down. So you can look at this as there being beef, there being smoke on one side, the other side, both sides. But for whatever reason, I still ain't been able to catch you. You know what I'm saying? You in one place, I'm in another. I'm over here, you're over there, kind of thing. So getting into the actual Synastry, Chris Brown has his moon in Taurus forming a conjunction to Quavo's Venus in Taurus. This is actually a very, very, very tight aspect between the two, very powerful. And this actually symbolizes the two being tied to the same woman. The moon and Venus are two very feminine planets. And in a man's chart can indicate the women in his life, okay? So with Chris being, he's a Taurus sun as well. And I think his sun is also tied into this conjunction. But as we focus specifically on his moon, right? That Taurus moon in conjunction to Venus and Taurus on Quavo's part, this could point to where they could be tied to the same women. The women in question could be Tauruses themselves or share a lot of Taurus influence. Karuchi is a Taurus. So right here, really hook, line, sinker, this is the crux of their problem. And the fact that this is the tightest aspect that the two share between them really goes to cement just how strongly this energy is going to be felt on both sides. So this conjunction can speak to both men having a conflict of interest due to sharing the same woman or the same women, and it causing a lot of tension specifically because there's going to be an issue of possession. There's going to be an issue of even jealousy there. Okay? Tauruses, especially even Taurus moons, are known for that. A man with his moon in Taurus a lot of times uses the women in their life for a sense of like comfort and security. And they have a hard time letting go. They don't like change, especially if it's initiated outside of themselves. Okay. And once again, they can be very, 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 very territorial, almost like I own you. You could look at this as a man feeling like, in regards to a woman, like I bought her and I paid for it. She's bought and paid for. She's mine. And that conjunction that moon is forming to Quavo's Venus, once again, is going to be a direct conflict of interest. This could deal with Quavo whining and dining her. Also, maybe, spoiling her, spending money on her. And honestly, it may not even be just Karuchi with this conjunction, this Moon-Venus conjunction. There could have been multiple women that these two have in common. But it kind of, and even energetically, it feels very, even superficial. So this conjunction could even speak to them liking the same types of women. And a lot of times it could be based on superficial decisions, like what the woman looks like, like them both going for the trophy types, right? And which ties back into, them gifting these women certain things or feeling like they're investing certain things into these women, at the end of the day. But with Chris's moon being tied up in this conjunction, he would actually have a lot more invested in this whole connection. Simply because, whenever Taurus is, and Taurus suns can be like this as well. Mind you, his sun is actually conjoined to his moon, which is also conjoined to Quavo's Venus. A person could feel like, even for Chris, like where his pride, his ego could be wrapped up into it. Like, I'm not going to let another man come along and run around with a female that I've already attached myself to. Right? That's mine. She's mine. And, with Tauruses can actually show the most venom whenever they feel like something of theirs is under attack or being directly threatened. Okay? And so, once again, tying this back into the situation with Quavo, you can look at this in the sense of Chris feeling like, well, this woman or these women are mine. And he's trying to get in the way of that, right? This person is trying to come in and take away what's mine. Therefore, now I got to turn up. Now I got to turn up and show you just how crazy I can get. Now I got to jump into the opposite polarity. So I thought this conjunction was very, very interesting. Moon in conjunction to Venus and Taurus definitely have the habit of sharing a lot of the same women. And these could also be women in the music industry. Yeah. But also, once again, just this sense of dealing with the same type of women, women, or where they could be drawn to women who have certain type of aesthetics, the women that they tend to show off as those trophy pieces, and that kind of thing. So once again, I thought that was very telling. And then you have Quavo's Pluto forming in opposition to Chris's moon, which symbolizes that threatening factor where Chris could feel like his stronghold on Karrueche, or the stronghold that he has to these certain women, could once again be directly under attack or threatened by Quavo's presence. Okay. This opposition could also even deal with where Quavo may have been an outside force, maybe being in Karrueche's ear, like this opposition kind of symbolizes like where Karrueche or whatever woman or women in question could have been dealing with him on the side. So it's like almost like he's throwing salt in the game, or, like I said, he's this outside, intimidating, threatening presence. Same thing goes for Quavo's Pluto forming in opposition to Chris's sun. That could also deal with just, once again, hatred. Like, you can't make this up, where Quavo could really, 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 really not mess with this man, and vice versa. And where, their relationship could take a very dark turn. And I thought it was interesting that Quavo's Pluto opposes Chris's sun, because Chris has sun in opposition to Pluto natally. This also reinforces this kind of theme where Chris is the type of person where naturally, and I noticed this with a lot of Tauruses because of that Venus rulership, where they could come off like very upstanding people. Libras, they have this kind of thing going on with them too, but just in a different way, where they could just come off as like very upstanding people, or, a lot of people could like them, but they have a very nasty, ugly side to them, especially behind closed doors. Chris also has that Pluto opposition to his moon natally. So a lot of people, like, where if you live with him, or maybe if you're in his family, or you're in his personal circle, or even women that he's with, right, he could really show you the worst of himself in these scenarios. But even with Quavo's Pluto in opposition to Chris's sun and moon also, this could be a situation that could really get him out of body, where a person can just go really low or be really nasty. Chris's natal moon Pluto opposition could even depict where he could be the type of person like, because Taurus could it's all about value, right? Where, even in relations, like, these are people who can wine you and dine you or make you feel, good about yourself and make you feel secure. But the minute you do something they don't like, they rip you off of that pedestal and they're instantly devaluing you. They tearing you down, right? Dragging you through the gutter, through the mud. And this could be how Chris perceives Quavo to, that like what Quavo's trying to do to him. Or, Chris could be the type of person to get down in the mud and want to do that to Quavo, where all bets are off. Hidden below the belt. Like, I want to destroy this person type of energy. So once again, I thought that was interesting as well. Like, with a lot of these different oppositions, they share a bunch of oppositions, by the way. And fun fact, in Synastry, oppositions are a really big indicator of two people not being on the same page. Oppositions, just as an aspect, indicate conflict and tension within themselves. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that the opposition is the most common aspect shared between the two just kind of cements the fact that just energetically, they exist on two different wavelengths. I don't see a reality, even without the Karrueche thing, where these two probably would have been friends. And if they were, it wouldn't be for long. Chris also has his Venus forming in opposition to Quavo's Pluto. That's another aspect that can result in like little lower level dealings with women, backdooring each other kind of thing. But, and this is just hypothetically speaking. I can even see a situation where, like, if y'all are having sex with the same women, you want to be mindful because diseases, they spread, infections, they spread. So dealing with one woman, going back and forth, stuff can get passed. I'm not saying that anybody has anything definitively, but theoretically, with these type of aspects, from a Synastry standpoint, like, they could be swapping out a lot, if you get what I'm saying. Which is not surprising to me, because Hollywood is very, very little. And y'all not gonna act like we don't already know that all these people be dating the same people. Like, they date the same 10 people, walk around smooching on each other. So there's that. But this could also even deal with where there could be a really present threat, like, between the two, where things could actually get really, once again, really ugly, in terms of, I would even say violence. And it kind of gives me the vibe too, especially with Venus and Taurus, of like, once again, this theme of Quavo trying to take what belongs to Chris. Even with all of the oppositions between Quavo's Pluto and Chris's personal planets in Taurus, Sun, Moon, Venus, he's coming for him. He's coming for what's his. And this could be women. But honestly, this could even be like clothes. This kind of gives me the vibe of, how men, when they get into it, they like, yeah, nigga, I'm going to come and take your chain, nigga. Like, I don't know. I don't think this has ever been said, but this could be like, their entourage is getting into it or something, and somebody take Chris Brown chain, or, I would even say vice versa. Because I do believe Quavo's Venus is opposing Chris's Pluto as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, there's that. These multiple Pluto oppositions between the two also symbolize like threats. So like threats being made as well. I meant to mention that. So like threatening one another, where, that could be a thing. And I think that's what they do. I think they threaten. I mean, I guess you could say they threaten each other. Chris's Sun is conjoined to Quavo's Venus. This could also point to shared relations with women, but even like Chris having a child with a woman that Quavo has dealt with, that could be possible. But once again, a common theme I'm noticing, even with these conjunctions, is that Chris is going to be much more impacted because more of his personal planets are involved. So his Taurus Sun and Moon conjoined to Quavo's Venus, technically Chris will have more skin in the game. So once again, the conflict of interest will create more of a problem for him, and it will be more disruptive to him because he has way more invested in these connections with these women, whether it be, once again, his ego, his pride, his sense of, like I said, attachment, him being very attached to these women. And all of this is happening in Chris's 10th house, by the way. So women that he's known for a long time, and where it could be a control thing too, where Chris can actually probably even in relationships be very controlling. Then you add the possessiveness into it, and then the oppositions to Pluto, both natally and then even synastry-wise with Quavo. Now we have the perfect recipe for a toxic cocktail, Definitely Moon in opposition to Pluto is like restraining orders. Women having to file restraining orders on him. I think, Karrueche definitely did. Rihanna did at once. Where he just like will go all out. And the extension of going all out would also include eliminating whatever threat that he sees, even if it's like another man, another guy, whatever the case may be. Their moons also oppose one another, as Quavo is a Scorpio moon. So Quavo having that moon in opposition to Chris's moon could also deal with not only just them dealing with the same women, but this opposition could be more reflective of like at different times, right? So I'm messing around with a chick around this time, and then, after me, she comes and deals with you. And sometimes it could even be like a back and forth thing. Like I said, I'm not really sure of the timeline specifically with Karrueche. Y'all can let me know in the comment section. But yeah, that's how those oppositions could play out. And then you have Chris's Saturn and Capricorn squaring Quavo's Aries sun, which results in typically like the Saturn person completely shutting the sun individual out. So you could look at this as Chris just being cool off of Quavo. Like, I'm not trying to kick it with you. I don't want to skate with you. I don't want to make peace with you. He could just be the type to, when they're not going back and forth, to just, shut it down. Like, I want very limited contact with you, very limited to no contact with you. I don't have nothing for you. These multiple planet oppositions between the two could also suggest that they share a certain level of vindictiveness towards each other and could weaponize the women that they're with, like, against one another. So intentionally fucking each other's women, like, as a form of get back kind of thing. So it's something that I feel like is an issue on both sides. Like, both Quavo and Chris could have this kind of deep-seated bone to pick with one another. Yeah, so that's just really what it is. I'm gonna go ahead and stop there because I don't want to make this video too long, but y'all drop down in the comment section. Let me know what y'all thought about their synastry. Do any of these synastry aspects sound familiar? Can you speak to any of these? Have you shared any of these aspects of synastry with someone else? I'd love to know. And make sure you practice unconditional self-love so that you can love each other. Okay, and I'll just catch y'all in the next video. Bye.